Hello and welcome to The Big Fight. In the aftermath of the horrific rape cases that we have been seeing and the attention around them, there's also been a lot of pop psychology, if you like, and a lot of different theories that have been propagated as to why we are seeing cases like this. And I have heard a variety of reasons being given. Some people say it's because the Indian male is sexually repressed, or something wrong with our society, which leads to a lot of cases like this. I've heard other people saying that pornography is really causing it, and there must be a ban on pornography. There's a PIL out there says that's really where the problem is coming from. Yet others say the real issue, we don't have legalized prostitution. If that was to be in place in India, you wouldn't have so many terrible rape cases. A variety of different reasons, a variety of different theories. Are any of them actually correct? That's what we're going to find out over this episode of The Big Fight, and perhaps I should have maybe some parental guidance warning out there, just in case there are small kids watching this. You may well want to tell them to block their ears if nothing else. Let me start also by welcoming all of our guests. It gives me great pleasure, and it's a privilege to have you with us, Dr. Sudhir Kangal, psychoanalyst, writer, one of the top. You've been writing on some of these themes for what, decades now, so it's great to have you here with your expertise. Rahul Ishwar is a spokesperson of the Sabarimala Trust, but also he's been studying and researching on philosophy and other areas for a long time and has strong views on this. Rajeshri Sen, editor at newslaundry.com, has been writing about many of these topics and many of these themes. Shaina NC, we know her as spokesperson of the BJP, but also has been talking at great length about lots of the issues around Indian society. So I'll leave you, Shaina, to say whether you're speaking on behalf of the party or in your personal capacity. Either way, it's absolutely fine. Soumya Suresh, senior program associate from Apne Aap Women Worldwide. You're a social activist. You've also been doing a lot of campaigns against trafficking. So it's great to have you with us. And we have a large audience out here, including some people who have been in some way or the other connected with the sex working trade as well, and we'll be getting their views as well going forward. Sumanto Chattopadhyay, last but not least, is also joining us from Mumbai, who's Executive Creative Director, South Asia at Ogilvy. Thank you all for being with us. Can I first start off on the broader issue? Is there something specific about India, about Indian men, about Indian society that is leading to so many cases of horrific rape? Or is this there's nothing unusual out here and rape happens everywhere?
Yes, rape happens everywhere. We know the rape statistics from various places, that India, the reported rapes are not greater proportionately than any other place. Is Indian society a repressed society? Is that the rape? Is that leads to rape? That's also a very difficult question. Indian society is a sexually very conservative society, yes, but it has also sexually liberal elements in it. It always has. India has always gone through various stages. In the Mahabharata, it's a very, very liberal society. There are people having sexual pleasure within marriage, without marriage, there's no problem at all. Then we have the Buddhist and the Jain influences for the next 200-300 years, where the god of death is the same as god of pleasure, terrible sexually repression. Then we have I think the golden period of Indian sexuality is the 4th to the 14th centuries, where you have all this Sanskrit love poetry, and there are women poets extolling adultery outside marriage. There is building of Konark, Khajuraho, the temples. Then again we go slowly. The last 300 years have been the worst as far as the sexual conservative part.
Because so has all that led to a certain amount of repression or sexual repression now in our society? Yes. And is that what leads potentially to your mind to rape, or is rape something completely different? It's just about the exercise of power and it's got nothing to do with sex itself or sexual repression?
I don't think it has to do that much with sexual repression. I mean, when you're looking at the rape figures in New York, one wouldn't say America is a sexually repressed society. New York rape figures are much higher than Delhi rape figures, although one would say, of course, that they are much more reported there. Or London rape figures are much higher, same population as Delhi, than Delhi. Berlin is 2,600 rapes a year, which is 1/5 of Delhi's population, again reported. Now, it could be, of course, as people say, Delhi or Indian cities are unreported. But again figures, UK 95% rapes are also unreported. So making a clear-cut connection between the two, I would hesitate doing that.
Okay. Rajesh, should I get you in on that note?
Indian male is not sexually repressed. We are in a very regressive society. The Indian woman is definitely sexually repressed. You are not allowed to talk about sex. You're supposed to be a virgin when you get married. You should not be ogling a man. But men are allowed a lot of liberties. It's also okay once you are married to treat women a certain way. So the Indian male is on a different footing altogether. It's more a question of patriarchy and male domination, which is what is leading to these kinds of rapes. This has nothing to do with sex. When people are saying, oh, they watched porn and therefore they felt, no, they think that women are there as objects who can be used for whatever purpose, to cook for you, to clean for you, to sleep with. It doesn't matter. Women do not really have a say.
So it's the way women are perceived in your mind which leads to the rape, and it's nothing to do with sex. It's just that
of course there's an underlying layer of sex. You can't take it out. But I don't think that's all.
It's more the way women are viewed in Indian society right now that you think is causing it. Rahul?
I would absolutely disagree with her. For rape has something to do with sex itself, less power. Of course, power, there is an element of power, subjugation is there. But we are losing our values, cultural sensitivity, ethics over a period of time. And rape statistics, if you look, in the past 30 to 40 years, 800% increase of reported rape statistics are there. So anyway, we understand things are getting unsafe. And I would like to simply point out, there are two paradigms.
Although I have to say, as Sudhir, as Dr. was saying, there could be two. One, rape itself is going up. Two, more of them are being reported.
Definitely yes. Definitely yes. That's a possibility nobody can deny. And this kind of debate is very essential because we are living in a sexually charged society. The reason being, look at the TV. Even if you have to sell a spoon, you need to have a girl with a bikini. So this kind of a sexually charged society, we have to deal with the topic of sexuality in a very nuanced way, and we have to protect the culture and ethical framework along with allowing a space for liberalism.
Okay.
I think all societies, everywhere in history, one fact is there, that male sexual desire has always overflowed female channels. That what to do with that overflow, as all societies all over the history have dealt with it.
Shaina, let me get you in on that point. So, is there a problem with society? Is there this objectification that was being spoken about, a certain portrayal of women, and increasingly on mass media and through channels like porn, which is widely available, increasing depiction of women in a very overtly sexual manner, and is that contributing to rape?
What is rape? It is an act of dominance, it's an act of exerting your power, it is an act of showing your bestial nature, which to my mind is also perversion. Now when one talks about pornography, everyone says that, why should we ban pornography? Today, a kid can access pornography on a smartphone, on your telephone, anywhere, the access you have through internet. And that takes you to a different level and a space which is bizarre and bestial. Things like inserting objects into women's private parts, beating her up, biting her, hitting her. This is not about love making. This is the beast in you. So I think we need to address it as a society, and we need to understand that rape is exertion of power.
Okay, Soumya?
Yes, I totally agree with Shainaji. Yes, rape is nothing to do with sex. It is exactly the dominance of a man towards a woman. It is subjugating women. Pornography is not showing sex. It is showing a woman as an object of
and increasingly the more extreme forms of pornography that are available, from whatever we are gathering or whatever we can pick up about it, it shows, as pornography is becoming more widely available, it's starting to show more and more extreme forms of it. So,
Shuman? If I can just add very briefly.
If you check Google, one of the most visited sites, if you take their trends, are rapes and sex, violence and sex. So these kind of things should be banned, and whenever we say this, always the liberal argument comes, let them live any way they live. Some kind of ethical censoring should be there.
Okay.
The basic problem which arises before you reach pornography is when you look at your mass media and your popular media, the way women are portrayed in films, in advertising. Porn is much later. If I see an Anil Kapoor looking at, I don't know which one of the Reddy girls was in that film, in Race, he talks to her breasts through the film. That's the comedy track of the film. For me to watch that film as a labourer is, I need to spend 2 rupees 50 paisa in a small town in West Bengal to get access to that film. If you are seeing your heroes behave like that, The porn is much later. You've already learned to objectify. And
Okay.
advertising does the same thing.
Okay, Shamanta, two things. Number one, advertising itself, the mass media, films are also showing women increasingly, as objects of lust and in all sorts of rather demeaning fashions. Would you agree with that? And does that, to your mind, lead in any ways to a rise in sexual violence, if not to actual rape?
It's a reflection of the way that our society is thinking. Because at the end of the day, our brands and our clients are representatives of our society, and it is their thinking that is transformed into an ad at the end of the day. The ad is designed to sell. So yes, I agree that there are certain ads in which perhaps there's a lack of taste in the way in which any subject is portrayed, including the way in which a woman perhaps is shown. But it is no more or no less than what is happening in any of our movies, or for that matter, the way I think it's all about the way that we treat our women. But I think that the moment that a woman is shown or a woman expresses herself sexually, suddenly she is desacralized, and then it becomes a free-for-all for everybody to desecrate her.
Okay, Shamanta, just hold that thought. Dr. Kakkar, I have to get you in because you've done a lot of work on this.
If you look at women as they were portrayed earlier, the Ganika, which is the highest courtesan, is the heroine of most Sanskrit plays. Swapnavasa Dattam, even the Buddhist literature, Jain literature sing praises of the courtesan. So she is, and Kama Sutra has a whole chapter for her, on how to get rid of a man and how to get more money from a man. So I mean, there was hugely respected who were prostitutes. Apsaras, they are heavenly prostitutes. That's what they are, and they are respected. So we look at the word like prostitute, for instance. It's such a word which immediately have connotations of despising, which is not in our case. Which is not in our case at all. I mean, prostitute. What does a prostitute do? She rents her body for money. Now, what is such a bad part of it? People rent their minds for money. Is that consultants do, lawyers do all the time? Some politicians rent their consciences for money. I mean, such a bad part.
It is not right to compare apples and pineapples and say they sound alike, so they should taste alike.
Prostitution is not labor. It's paid sexual exploitation. Let's understand that. It is often paid rape. So are we saying that no, to be raped is something that happens with perverts in society, and then you have multiple perverts who use prostitutes and legalize rape?
I want to now come to two of the specifics that have been raised so far. Specifically, the question of pornography. Specifically, the question of prostitution, and whether the banning of pornography and how that's going to be done, nobody knows, or the legalization of prostitution. Do either of these perhaps have, what is the view on that? Would that increase, decrease the incidence of rape? Let's say look at pornography for a minute. The way pornography is, and let's face it, it goes much beyond what the sexual depiction of women in movies and ads is, because increasingly pornography is shown, as we were discussing earlier, it shows the act of sex itself in such a bestial manner that also contributes to people viewing women and viewing the sex act itself in a different way. Is there a case for banning pornography? And if there is, how can it possibly be managed?
See, it is a totally wrong notion that many people say in the age of internet, pornography cannot be banned. You go to a corporate company, you go to the NDTV office, there might be some keywords which are blocked. It's not at all a tough job. A person who is of minimum, medium technical expertise can ban the whole of pornography in India if the government wills. And what is pornography? Pornography is less about adult materials. It is more about rape tubes. It is more about subjugation of women. It is about child rapes and child sex. These are the things which are glamorized. We need to ban it categorically.
Look, child sex is banned irrespective every single.
It is available in India. Go to Google. Just go to Google. Type it is available in India.
By the way, it's illegal. It's illegal to be even viewing it or to have any images. Child sex is there's no debate on that.
But that's the point.
Child sex is banned, and anybody who views it is committing a crime.
That's the point in India.
India
is freely available.
Maybe, but it's still that is banned. Rahul, but that brings us to the second point. Even if you ban pornography, how do you ensure it? Because you're right. Child sex is banned, child pornography is banned, but if
No,
people
a
can
banning in
access it,
government
that's
paper
wrong.
doesn't mean anything. Government should have the will to act according to IT
So,
Act.
Madhu,
and ban.
let me first get
No,
where everyone stands in
first,
this.
my
Do you think
thing
there's a case for banning pornography or
Yeah,
is there
so
not?
that's what, are you saying there's a direct correlation between pornography and rape? Every rapist is watching porn. That's a very, very infantile way of looking at it.
Maybe not. In the case of the 5-year-old they
In the
were.
case
In the
of
case
the
of the 5-year-old they were, but it's not
they
going to
were-
be the case every
yeah,
time.
but my thing is, even if you ban it, there are enough other things, other ways, like what he's saying, there are other ways of accessing it. And let's not just think that pornography is through websites. There are books which are 50 Shades of Grey. Is read more by women than by men, and I really don't think there's a direct correlation.
Frankly, I think there may also be a case for differentiating pornography and pornography. You know,
Yeah,
there are different
exactly.
types, because he's right. There are, from all accounts, certain levels, several forms of pornography out there which are almost criminal in nature. You know, so maybe those should be banned, if not the others. Shaina, is there a case of banning pornography?
Google says the maximum amount of pornography watched world over is in the city of Delhi. Now, I'm not trying to correlate just one case of a 5-year-old who has been raped, but the fact that that 22-year-old watched this kind of pornography, which took him to a different zone, he was unable to release himself, and he went and perpetrated this crime on a child. Now, whether you want to know or not, pedophilia is a big worry in our nation today. Look at the atrocities against children. Look at the amount. There's 7,200 cases which have been registered of rapes against infants. Now, if this is not about a perverted mind, where is this perverted mind evolving from?
But hang on, pedophilia, but China, here's the issue. Pedophilia by itself has nothing to do with banning other forms of pornography, because child pornography is banned already around the world.
But the point is that if you have a
other
pervert who
forms
is getting this kind of food for thought and finds nobody else to exert himself on, and if he picks up the child who's the most convenient kind of link, isn't that something we as a society need to question?
Let me get you in, Soumya, on the note of pornography and whether there's a case at all for banning it. Now, by the way, I'm not sure what research and what studies really show, because there was one interesting piece of research done by Anthony Amato and Glenn Reynolds. This was in the United States, which was a strange sort of a study which said that incidence of rape had declined while access to pornography had increased. I'm not sure what the correlation is one way or the other, but there are these interesting other studies around.
I think the correlation, what they want to say here is that men can watch pornography, they can fantasize, and they can release their sexual energy when they are fantasizing. But even if you see it that way, it can't be a reason to promote pornography, because pornography industry is not just about rape or just about violence. It's also about trafficking and prostitution. It's about, you know, there are a lot of marginalized women and girls who are being trafficked for pornography. UNODC report says that 79% of trafficking happens for sexual exploitation, and pornography is one of them.
Okay. So she's saying that even if we don't ban it, don't promote it. I mean, frankly, we do have a situation right now where we actually have a celebrity whose claim to fame is that she was a porn actress. I mean, let's face it. Dr. Kakkar?
About the first country to ban pornography was in the 1970s, late 70s, was Denmark. And then they had the study afterwards. Their experience was that sexual crimes went down after pornography was not legalized, that it was not banned at all. There are so many other countries which have, the research is divided. It is not that pornography produces sexual crimes, it can also decrease sexual crimes. One way, of course, as she was saying, that the sexual release, the man masturbates instead of going out looking for something. That's what one is saying. And once you are sexually down, satisfied, etc., you are not that violent at all. Everyone knows that too. I mean, sexual satisfaction.
And that's of course assuming you're viewing rape as emanating out of sexual desire and not out of a desire for power.
You know, they are both mixed. I mean,
some are one, some are the other.
No, I mean, human beings, we have these two very strong instincts. The sexual instinct is strong, and also the violence. Anyone tells us we are ready to hate if anyone insults. They have to be kept in check. How tight that check is. That cauldron is bubbling all the time. And if it is completely kept, the lid explodes, then not only one comes out, both come out together. So sex and violence get mixed together when they come out in that bubbling part of it. It is not separate. You cannot separate those stuff.
Okay, Shumanto, let me get you in on this. On the question of pornography, is there a case for controlling, restricting, banning porn?
In cases where access to internet porn has gone up, say by 10%, the cases of sexual violence against women and rape have actually come down by 10%. So I think one, it's extremely difficult to control pornography. It's transmitted in such a way over the internet. It's really difficult to control. I believe that it should not be banned.
Okay, you believe it should not be banned. Can I then turn to the other question that we were discussing, which was on prostitution? Whether there is a case for legalization of prostitution. Let me just come back to exactly the same point you were making. Yeah. You're saying it's like a pressure cooker, and when it explodes, then it leads to both sexual crimes and violence. So the argument for the legalization of prostitution is that that release is therefore available to the person, and he won't rape somebody. You could of course argue that the sex worker has already been through a variety of crimes. That's a counter side, but at least this person will then go to a sex worker and will not actually rape somebody.
As I said, prostitute is looked at as a bad word. You are prostituting yourself. It becomes immediately bad. But if you call it renting yourself, now I'm not talking about the forcing of the rape. That of course is legalizing will take care of those problems, because a lot of violence in prostitution, a lot of the predators, the policemen and the pimps, etc., are because of the illegal part of it. If there were complete rights for the woman to go to the police and the case registered and punishment, there would be very, very different kind of thing. So prostitution is something which one should really look at legalizing it. Yeah.
Soumya, the legalization of prostitution actually improve the rights, improve the levels for the sex workers themselves? Would they have access to a certain amount of protection which they don't right now? They would not entirely be at the mercy of pimps. Well, let's face it, it's not that the prostitution doesn't exist in India right now. It does, as you know, from a lot of the work that you've done. Would the legalization actually improve the lot of the sex workers themselves?
There are several points in that. First thing is that if after legalization these women are going to get these rights, are they going to get all the entitlements they're supposed to get? Because there are countries who have legalized prostitution, like Netherlands and Australia, who are rethinking about their decision, because the sex trafficking industry has gone up after legalizing prostitution, because they traffic girls from different countries, because the demand side is more there, because it's a supply and demand chain. The supply side, there are traffickers, there are these transporters, there are these pimps, and the demand side, there are the customers. So how can you manage the supply side when the demand side goes up? That's one thing. The second thing, by legalizing prostitution, you are trying to protect the one class of society, one class of women who are the so-called mainstream women. To make them safe, we are trying to put the marginalized and the lower caste women into prostitution and trying to get them into a forceful exploitation. Because while my work, I have never come across an upper class woman or a rich woman being forced into the red light areas. They are all the lower class marginalized women who are being forced into prostitution. So how will we act? How will we make sure that they are going to be safe, they are going to have their rights?
Shaina?
And will the society give them the rights? They will still be marginalized, they will still be labeled as a prostitute.
Shaina, on the correlation of prostitution or the legalization of prostitution as perhaps reducing the incident of rapes, what is your take on that?
But prostitution is also a certain kind of rape. It's paid rape. My biggest fear with prostitution, and you cannot put blinkers and say there isn't prostitution, as we know it does. Let's not glamorize it and say that's the quickest route to earn money, 15,000 rupees a month. Forget, getting a job somewhere by normal means. This is an option. You'd have this entire, the pimps that you're talking about, this would be an industry in itself. What about sexually transmitted diseases? What about houses which are broken, where husbands who just go out on the rampage, just want to spend their money on all these kinds of things? And I think we need to discuss all of them.
Legalizing prostitution is something which needs to be done more, keeping in mind the lives of the prostitutes who do not have rights, and they need those rights. Whether this will decrease rape, I don't think there's a correlation, for the simple reason that if someone who is a prospective rapist or is a rapist wants to go to a prostitute, he's still going to go to a prostitute, whether it's legal or not. It's happening right now. As far as
yes and no, I mean, there are reports that in these people's cases also they contemplated that going to a prostitute, but with
I
with
think
the
the
fact
only
that
thing that
it's
would have stopped
illegal,
them.
it's not
no,
that easy to
I
find.
don't think. Honestly, I don't think that's really the logic why they may not have gone. It's just easier to access porn on your phone where you're not paying for it, and me paying 100 rupees for sex. It's a very easy monetary decision. When it comes to saying prostitution is paid rape, from a certain point of view, there are a lot of us who believe arranged marriages are paid rape as well. I've paid for a man to look after me, and it's coming down to rape. So there are ways of looking at it. The point is, you need to legalize it for other reasons. You need to legalize it because women have rights as prostitutes.
How can you compare the institute of marriage which comes with
No, I don't know.
and to say that it's the same as prostitution?
You have to realize that prostitutes have certain rights. So those rights need to be given through legalization. I'm
that
just saying
can happen,
that
but by saying that everyone who
legalize,
chooses
will
to
they have
earn money
rights?
become a
that is an
prostitute,
implementation
that's a
thing.
different
That is
debate.
obviously you don't just legalize. No. You don't just legalize something. Everything has to have a system in place behind it.
You want to professionalize prostitutes?
No.
Give them
If you
professional-
legalize,
corporate
of
But I
course,
think that
what
happens.
is
Hang
wrong
on.
with that? What is
The
wrong with that?
professionalization of prostitution, actually, it's not that it doesn't happen in some
Yeah.
countries. In certain countries, prostitutes are licensed. They have health checks.
Yes.
Why
they get
should you not give
benefits.
that right?
So
And
it's not that
I'll
they
tell
don't
you
get
the
it.
counter argument to this.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah, can I ask you the counter question? Usually in every culture, females are more repressed. Why don't women rape men?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why don't
Very
females
good
rape
point.
men? They are more repressed, they are more culturally
Yes.
subjugated. Why is it so?
There's a
No,
physiological reason as well.
leave apart the penetration. Why don't they abuse? Why don't they attack? No, why don't they go for all the kind of
not that
activities that they do in the
Because,
bus?
because of that repression, exactly you're
Yes.
saying, because the females are
There's
so
a-
repressed, because of the
See,
patriarchy.
this is the counter argument.
That is-
Because they are extremely repressed, they are become Devadas, they don't do.
they don't
So
do,
men
they
can
become
have
weaker.
slight kind of repression, they can do it. This line of argument is wrong. And my line of argument is a right conservative which says, see, of course, sexuality is a reality, but let that sexuality be have norms. Our government is taking positions of marriage. Why can't we also have positions on sexuality? Let sexuality have a sacredness, sanctity, intimacy,
But that's,
relationship.
hang on, but
Sex-
that, nobody is disagreeing with that
That
basic
is-
philosophical
Yes, so-
position that you're taking. No one
Nobody
disagrees with it,
agrees.
but we are wondering whether, given the present situation, and given that we are not in the ideal situation, should we tomorrow, next month, this year, next year, should there be, for example, these steps like the legalization of prostitution?
But why
or
are
should
we
there
not-
not? What is your view, by the way, on the legalization of prostitution?
Never legalize because prostitution itself. Look at nations like Thailand who have promoted sex tourism.
Actually, theoretically, by the way, I don't think prostitution is legal in
It's
in
not.
Thailand.
It's not.
It's
But
not
you know,
legal in Thailand. It's legal in other countries.
unofficially
like
they
the
have,
Netherlands
or
and
many
Germany
nations,
and-
sex tourism, and they are rethinking on such a thing.
They are
Sexually
rethinking.
transmitted
There are
diseases,
statistics
breakdown on
which
values.
says that even after legalization, I have some statistics which says that 59% of women said that even after legalization they didn't feel safer. I have some statistics which says that 80% of people still were going through physical harm, 70% of them are still going through sexual assault.
Okay.
And the government is thinking the whole
And there's
Okay.
so many
Hang on,
cases
hang
of
on.
rape
Can I,
and
Shumanta, let me just get you in. You think the legalization of prostitution is one of the things that should be done right now, perhaps to reduce the overall level of sex crimes?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now in India, apart from clients raping prostitutes, I think our legal system is also raping prostitutes. Our police system is also raping the prostitutes. So I think the first step is to give her the legal standing and the human rights that she deserves.
Okay, Shumanta, we got that.
One second.
I want to actually turn,
One sentence. The question is not prostitution good or bad, but prostitution legal or illegal. What is worse for the prostitute? I mean, any statistics you give that after legal they are bad, aren't they much worse when the prostitution is illegal? So I mean, the question
Okay,
is.
can we in fact just, I mean,
Okay.
we have people in our audience who have actually been involved in sex work. I think that perhaps they are the best people who can actually talk about this. Actually, their faces are covered. Would you like to? Yeah.
My name is Monica and I come from organization Drishtikon, which works for underprivileged women with specific focus to non-brothel based sex workers. So now, as the discussion has been going on whether to legalize or not to, well, it can be done to a limit by regulating sexually transmitted infections, trafficking, generating revenue, but not to an extent of stopping the rape, because my experience of having worked with them for over a decade, especially the non-brothel based sex workers, they have come across with clients who have been raping them when there was no reason to do so because easy sex was available. But it was probably due to the power and pressure of the social circumstances they come across with, or maybe the plight that she will never report. It actually happened, and this happened that she never reported. As I would like to say, in one of our group meetings conducted with the sex workers, one of them also said that अगर हम ना होते तो हर घर में sex हो रहा होता या rape हो रहा होता.
And what were their view? Maybe if you could ask.
Definitely.
Prostitution का काम है, अगर उसको एक तरह से लीगल दर्जा दिया जाए, पुलिस क्या आपको लगता है कम तंग करेगी?
पुलिस नहीं तंग करेगी.
अच्छा, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे?
पहले उसको पूछते हैं कि आप दबाव में आके कर रही हो कि अपने कुछ मजबूरी में आके कर रही हो. अगर बोल देती है मैं अपनी मजबूरी से कर रही हूँ तो मैं सेल लेटर पे साइन करा लेते हैं, जो लेके आता है उससे भी और जो करता है उससे भी, दोनों से साइन करा के.
नहीं तो क्या आपको लगता है कि जो जितनी भी लड़कियां आती हैं इस काम में, वो सब मजबूरी से आती हैं कि कुछ अपनी?
नहीं, हर मजबूरी से हर लड़की नहीं आती है. हर लड़की कोई जबरदस्ती भी करवाता है, ये नहीं हर लड़की मजबूरी में आती है. कोई मजबूरी में आती है, कोई किसी के दबाव में आती है.
अगर मान लीजिए सरकार की तरफ से अनुमति आ जाएगी, लाइसेंस मिल जाएगा कि हाँ आप लोग ये काम कर सकते हैं, उससे आपको क्या लगता है सहूलियत होगी कि ज्यादा महिलाओं को इसमें डाला जाएगा?
इससे ज्यादा नहीं होगी तो जैसी हो रही है, मगर जो पुलिस वाले हैं वो किसी को नहीं चलने देते. जो पैसा देता है वो छोड़ देते. अगर जो पुलिस वाले टाइट हो जाएं तो ये काम बंद हो जाएगा रेप होना.
अच्छा, तो आपको लगता है कि एक तरह से सरकार को इजाजत देनी चाहिए?
हाँ जी.
कि जो सेक्स वर्क है, प्रोस्टिट्यूशन, उसके लिए सरकार को इजाजत देनी चाहिए?
हाँ जी.
उसको लीगल कर देना चाहिए?
हाँ जी.
Would you agree with that?
I think she has her own way of communicating, in the sense they have generated their own system. When we talk of legalizing the aspect, then it's not that government is not working on the issue. The government has a targeted intervention program being done for them so in order to treat their crisis, taking care of their crisis, sexually transmitted infections and other aspects, and they themselves on their own have generated a system of limiting that they should be, abused. But then again, I would say that it's really a debate whether to or not to, but the answer is it should not be legalized because we live in a socially cultural environment, and it is too early to talk of whether to liberalize them with this kind of a aspect or not.
But it's interesting that both she and she seem to be indicating that legalization is something that they would personally prefer because they think their life would be easier. Shaina, would you like to say anything to her? Because she's in a sense contradicting what you were saying, that if it was legalized, she's agreeing with what Rajyasree was saying, that if it was legalized, her life becomes easier.
I think there are quite a few aspects to this debate.
No, you can ask her directly if you want.
तो सरकार आपको बहुत सारे options दें, अच्छा व्यवसाय दे, तो क्या आपको ये धंधे में रहना पड़ेगा या आपको अच्छा लगेगा कि कोई और कोर्स करें, समझो ब्यूटिशियन का हो या समझो एक अच्छा नौकरी मिल जाए, अच्छी पगार मिल जाए?
आजकल कहीं नौकरी भी करने जाते हैं ना, वहाँ पे भी यही सोचते हैं लोग, नौकरी करेंगे तहाँ पे भी यही सोचेंगे, कम से कम मेरी लाइफ खराब होने से दूसरे की लाइफ तो बच्चों की तो लाइफ बनेगी. अगर मेरी खराब हो रही है तो आगे बच्चों का भविष्य तो पैसों से हम कुछ करेंगे, कहीं भी जाएंगे वो भी यही बोलेंगे.
Shaina?
I think that we need to have government proactiveness.
No, I mean, ये जो कह रही थी उसका आपको जवाब देंगे कि अगर
she have said the answer actually. She just said that अगर उनका लाइफ खराब हो गया तो उनकी बच्चों की लाइफ अच्छी होगी. If she says that legalizing prostitution would solve her problems, if sex work is a profession, then why would she not take her daughters into that profession if it is a profession? Second thing, sexually transmitted disease, how are you going to regulate that even after legalizing it? Does they have a choice of using a condom? Does the prostitute have a choice of using a condom? No, the customer have the choice of using a condom.
The biggest worry, Vikram, is sexually transmitted diseases, and I don't think that everyone understands.
That frankly, the more you regulate, the more, I mean, if you actually were to bring it out over ground, I mean, we're now getting into a slightly different area of debate, which we should perhaps come back to.
As part of this debate, the irony of the situation is whether you talk about prostitution, which I said is paid rape, or you talk about actual rape. both cases, the culprit seems to be the police in a lot of times. So whether it's sensitivity of the police, whether it's proactiveness of the police, or whether it's corruption of the police, this is something we should also be debating along with proactiveness of the
They are not
government.
saying they are willingly going to it. No, हमें ये काम कर आना पड़ा. They want their children out of it. It is not a glamorized or glorified field. So we want to reduce this menace. This is not a positive thing.
Okay, Malik, can I take a break? Then let's come back. We'll get more views of the audience as well. I suspect we're going to end up having to do a lot of issues have been raised out here. We may have to do 2 or 3 big fights before we finally come to grips with all of them. But let's take a break. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back to The Big Fight. We've been looking at a lot of the discussions and debates at a broader societal level after the attention that has been correctly focused on the menace of rape in our cities and whether the solution lies in fixing Indian society, obviously, but does it also lie in certain areas like banning pornography or legalizing prostitution or both? Let me just get some members of the audience in and see what you think about it. Who has an opinion? The lady there.
Prostitution should be legalized, okay, but it is illegal in India, but just on papers. My view is that it's just on papers. There's a very significant place in Delhi where there's brothels run very openly there. Everyone knows about it. In Mumbai, there's a specific place.
But because
everyone knows
it's
about that.
theoretically illegal, it gives the police and the others a right to exploit the people out there even worse.
The police is right outside those areas.
Yes,
they are
but they
directly
get money
involved.
for it, they get other things from it, you know, so that's
Of course.
exactly the problem.
So that will stop. All the people who are saying it should or should not be legal, well, it will take place. Legal or not legal. Yes, so why not work on an infrastructure which gives it a better scope for the customer and the person who's providing sex?
So you're saying some of the abuse will go down once it becomes legal?
It will be there. Let's come to terms to it.
Along with legalizing prostitution, please respect the prostitutes. You know, before partition, there was a village here in Pakistan which is called Gujranwala. Every time a girl got married or she had a baby, in the evening she would go and touch the prostitute's feet and the prostitute would bless them. Also in Durga Puja, they get the mud from the prostitute's house. Respect them. Please, that's a profession they are doing willingly, unwillingly, whatever it is. But give them an element of respect here. And I think the Indian male is very easily titillated. And that somewhere has to be stopped or checked. I don't know.
How are you going to stop it or check it?
I really don't know. The debate is there.
Okay.
By far in India, prostitution has been illegal, on paper at least. But my question is that has it helped?
No,
it hasn't helped.
It has no way.
And law is no gospel. Law is experimentative. Once made, it can be changed too. The step taken forward can be taken back. So why not try legalizing it?
Okay,
and as far as the repression...
Okay, the lady there,
Yeah, I would like to say something about her point. This is very right that she said that it should be the prostitute should be respected, because whenever you being a student, I know whenever you talk of guys, especially guys, they'll talk about their mother and sister as if they're the best women. But whenever they're talking about an outsider, if they see a girl wearing short clothes, they'll be like, she's a slut. That's what they use, the correct words, and that too in Hindi. And they do not respect. A slut she's not supposed to be disrespected. She's supposed to be respected. It's a profession.
Okay, let me just get a couple of more viewpoints. The lady down there.
It is the woman who has to carry the baggage of being called a whore for the rest of her life.
Okay.
And the man just escapes scot-free.
We respect prostitutes. We don't respect prostitution. There is a huge difference. We respect the woman. We don't respect and we don't agree that this is a profession. This is not a profession. We respect the women.
You respect the women.
Okay,
I respect them.
Fine, I'm going to give you one last chance.
My question is only and only to you and you. Okay, I am from a forum where we have women, we interact with them. We are not sitting here just like that. We have come here because we are emotionally in touch with this topic. There are forced people, agreed. But there are people who come here by choice, and we should work upon saving the forced people, not by telling the people who are by choice not to do it. So please work on the... No, sir, no. Let me clear this out.
Had it been so, why would she say that she don't want
She's just one. We meet 100 in a day. Let me tell you. She is one. We meet 100 in a day who say that, madam, हम ये धंधा करना चाहते हैं, पुलिस पैसा खाती है, हमें खिलाना पड़ता है, पर हमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. प्रॉब्लम इससे है कि पुलिस हमारा फायदा उठाती है. लीगल करो ना.
क्या आप इनकी बात से सहमत हैं?
मैं 2008 से महिलाओं के साथ काम कर रही हूँ फील्ड में, जैसे इनको कॉन्डोम वगैरह की सर्विस देना. एक एचआरजी को जहाँ एक व्यक्ति हायर करके ले जाता है, 100 रुपीज में वो अपना सेक्स उसे प्रोवाइड करती है. एक क्लाइंट उसे लेगा कि मेरी पर्टिकुलर जगह है, वहां तुम्हें चलना है. वहां 10 व्यक्ति उसके साथ सेक्स करते हैं, तो क्या उसका रेप नहीं हुआ उस जगह सर? उसके लिए तो कोई प्रोटेक्शन भी नहीं है. वो कहाँ जाकर के अपनी बात रखे कि मेरे साथ रेप हुआ है, क्योंकि एक व्यक्ति उसे ले गया और वहां 10 उस जगह उसे मारा भी जाता है, पीटा भी जाता है, और बिना किसी प्रोटेक्शन के उसके साथ काम भी होता है.
तो आपको कोई प्रोटेक्शन चाहिए ना, कि कोई आपका जो प्रॉब्लम है वो समझे, आपको कोई कुछ करे. पुलिस आपको मदद करना ही पड़ेगा, क्योंकि यही लॉ है. अभी तो कोई नहीं करेगा.
Any woman who gets into prostitution is never by will. It's because she cannot get her livelihood. She cannot fill her stomach. She doesn't have any choice but to get into this
Now
field.
she's done a lot of work. She's done a lot of work.
One of the people from the forum said that the rich women do not come into it. They come into it, but they come on the slide. They never come and for big pleasures and big money. No.
Okay.
They also come in.
Okay. The lady here, let me get one more. I keep on saying I have to end the program now. I really do have to.
How many people would like to go for prostitution here when they are given other options to do? And it is a very small minority of people who go there for pleasure. So isn't it putting laws for that? Isn't it saying that prostitution is something inevitable?
Fine. Then,
We are
you wanted to say something.
prostitution is inevitable.
What I say is that sexual urges is a biological need, just like hunger. Now my question is to Shaina and the gentleman there, Rahul. If you are incapable socially, for example you're autistic or you're disabled in some way, you still have to satisfy that sexual need. Where do you go in your ideal society that you are trying to project? Do you go to a person who's running a beauty parlor or doing your toenails? No, you have to go to a sex worker.
You clearly don't go and rape a 5-year-old, or you don't
Fine.
I think we're digressing totally from the topic.
All right.
The topic is not about whether prostitution, whether prostitution should be respected, etc. We're all in tandem. The point is, there are perverts in society. Accept it. And these perverts happen to be men. And where is this rape stemming from? And where is it heading?
Right. So
as a society, we need to discuss
I think we probably need to reconvene and have a separate big fight just on the question of the legalization of prostitution. I promise to do it, and I promise to call all of you back for that and go into that issue. Let me get final thoughts from you on the show.
See, there is rapes happening, and why are we not talking about sex education? Why are we not talking about, why are we not saying no to single-sex schools and colleges? Why are we not talking about
But will that have an immediate impact? Or will some of these measures, like the legalization of prostitution or the banning of pornography, would they have a more direct, immediate impact?
No, because we are trying to save a certain class of society and we are putting others on stake when we are trying to say that legalize prostitution. I mean, some girls should be available for certain class of men to address their repression. That is just not fair. And yeah, so why don't we talk about
any of these issues? How do you fix, I mean, do you need to fix the Indian male in some way? Do you need to ban pornography? Do you need to...
We need to ban the Indian male. We need to ban the Indian male.
You need to ban the Indian male, period, across the board, 600 million.
May I make my point?
Yeah.
There is something called moral education along with sex education, and that moral education starts in every single household. All the young boys, if they learn to respect within their families, trust me, we'll have far less perverts in society.
Sumanto, final thoughts from you on the show.
What I believe is that I think we need to make Indian society and India a far safer place for all women, including prostitutes. And the way to do this is to cultivate a more open and liberal attitudes towards sex and sexuality, bring it out into the open, bring it out of the shadow world in which it lives, stop banning pornography, stop pushing prostitution into dark, illegal corners, which is what is making India an unsafe place for women today.
Okay. Actually,
I think we need to first fix the Indian family. People need to learn how to respect brothers need to learn that it's not just your sisters, respect all women, everyone needs to be treated properly. It's not to do with just sex, it's how you treat people.
But again, as I was saying to Shaina, nobody can disagree with what you're saying,
no,
but is that going to happen in a short period of time?
But one can hope that it would happen, and the other thing, the thing which would make sure that
can be possible.
What you can do and what we should do is get much firmer laws in place, get fast track
fear
courts
of
in
law.
place. There is no fear of anything happening.
Absolutely.
I can rape, no one will catch me, nothing will happen.
And I
That
can
is
get
what
away.
needs to be checked.
On pornography
porn
and prostitution?
I don't think that you should ban things. It's not, this is not the way to go. Ban this, ban that, ban this. Nothing happens by that.
Okay.
Three
Rahul.
solutions. One, have sex education, moral education, but don't call it sex or moral, call it ethical education. Otherwise, according to their political, they will have problems. Second thing, don't promote things like pornography. They are not to be promoted. And one important thing, and things like prostitution should not be glamorized. We should have some kind of a censoring regulation to internet. And one very important point, all the girls, my sisters should remember, see, even though it doesn't sound fashionable, there is an inherent difference between male sexuality and female sexuality. I am not saying females are angels fallen from heaven. No. I'm not saying all men are prawns and people who are ready to rape. But there is an inherent difference between sexuality of males and females. That's reflected in the rape statistics. Now, 99% of the atrocities, sexual atrocities are committed by man on woman. Why is there no equality in that? Why is it not 50-50? So there is a nature of male sexuality that need to be contained. There is a nature, and boys and men is the problem. I'm not saying females are the problem. Males are the problem. They should be taught to respect. They should be taught to understand.
That's why Shaina said fix them, ban them.
Yeah, no, not ban them, but fix, regulate and channelize them. And protect the system of family, institution of family.
Okay.
It is a far better system than all the other systems you have tried.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Kakar, let me get you in and you have the final words of this entire show. I have to say a lot of what they've said is something which nobody can dispute. Yes, get the Indian family, remember all these cultural values. Obviously, if we do all of that, it works. Some of the other solutions we've heard today, whether it's the legalization of prostitution or the banning of pornography, do they have a more direct, quick impact or no?
I'm sorry to sound a bit cynical. I mean, prostitution is not an Indian problem. Thousands of years, etc. Them being tried to fix it, etc. I think one thing that male sexual desire overflows, that is true. It needs containers. Female channels are not enough. Now, what do you do with the overflow excess of male desire? Prostitution is one way of doing it, or ban males in that way, to put the desire out. That unfortunately is not going to be. But I think the more important from our Indian viewpoint is that we've had the pursuit of pleasure and the pursuit of money is not as a bad things at all. So all that material business, leave that aside. But they were always under the moral compass of the dharma. Now that moral compass is gone, the pursuit of pleasure is there. Now all these programs that you are doing is, I think, a way of developing a new moral compass, because that old moral compass had looking at women way, which is absolutely now women as individuals. We cannot have women like that, and that Stri Dharma is not lower, that Jati Dharma is completely out. So we have to develop that, and all these programs have on sexual education, on prostitution, and lots of others I could suggest. These will all start developing a new moral compass which we have to do.
So Dr. Kakar, on that note where you said that shows like this are increasing people's moral compass, I'll take that as the occasion to end the program.
Developing a new moral
Developing
compass.
a new moral compass. That's it on this episode of The Big Fight. We'll be back next week.
NDTV.